Okay. Recording has started. All right. So then, welcome to everyone who has made it today. I hope you stay. I hope network is more or less stable. Thanks for our panelists, to our panelists for joining, that you made it possible. And yeah, our topic for today, as announced, is about working in the solar industry, hiring people, being hired, exchanging tips and tricks between employers and employees. So at the beginning, we have a poll for you. Please answer a question: who you are. Are you joining from the employer side or from the employee side, so that we can kind of see what would be interesting for you. There should be a poll popping up on your screens right now. And yeah, the technical stuff first. So you can pose questions to us, to the panelists, and to me. And my colleague Antje, who is saving data for the voice and not for the video, she is collecting all your questions. There's below at the screen, there's a thing called question and answer. And if you click on that, you can put your question into it. Do not put it in the chat, put it in the question and answer tool. And then Antje will put your questions through to me. Yeah.
Okay, so the result of the poll is, so we have 60% employers and 40% employees.
Okay.
That's what we have in the room.
It's more or less equal, so I think it will be an interesting discussion. We are trying to get all the info out of our panelists. So yeah, who do we have here? We are starting with a pitch where all our 4 panelists introduce themselves. Let's see, do you want to try the video, or Amanda, or would you rather keep it off?
We can try. It's just if it becomes problematic, then they must not be surprised if it just goes black. Okay. But at least they can see the face for the first few seconds, so that's fine.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining, Amanda. Amanda is working for Green Solar Academy. We got to know her at the Solar Show in 2017, I think it was, where she was helping us just with the booth, handing out drinks, stuff like that. And she was not yet working for Green. And we were actually not looking for an employee, but then when we couldn't avoid it anymore, Antje and I couldn't get all the work done. She was our first choice. And yeah, introduce yourself a bit more, Amanda.
Okay, yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Dzivhani. I think most, if not all of you, have communicated with me at some point, email, phone call, something. I studied electrical engineering at Dzivhani University of Technology, and I graduated 2018. And as Vivian said, I met her and Antje at the Solar Show in 2017. Yes. So at that time, I was still doing my work integrated learning with Resolution Circle. So they just came to us and told us there's a company that we work with and they need help with an exhibition. So I was like, well, not a lot that can go wrong, so why not? And then we put our names down and they only picked the first 4 that were on the list. And I was part of that. So we went to Solar Show and basically we were just handing out flyers, drinks, just talking to the people. And somehow I caught Antje and Vivian's eye. And I I was not much of a LinkedIn person. And then when I checked, I think it was a week or two after, I saw that Antje had sent me a message on LinkedIn that she would like to talk. I was like, oh, okay, someone German wants to talk to me. That should be interesting. And yes, so she came to South Africa, we met. But I think I stayed about 3 months at home, unemployed, after I completed my qualification, which I think on a graduate is very hard because you went from primary school to high school, from high school to varsity, so your mind has always been busy, and then when you graduate, it's just nothing. So you don't really know what to do with yourself at that time, and it's difficult. So when an opportunity presented itself, you want to do your best so that you are the best in whatever group of people that they're meeting. So I think I impressed them. And yes, then I started with them on a freelance basis. And then obviously my awesome skills. No, we worked well together, and when they decided that they would actually want now to employ a person, then I was their choice. And when I started, it was still under Max Academy, so it officially became Green 2020. Yes, January 2020, and I was officially the first employee. And now we've grown. It's a team of 6 doing wonderful things. Yes.
Yep.
And yes, that's me.
Thank you. Yeah, we are very happy that it worked out so well, and that's why we put Amanda on the panel, because we're so proud and we want to show her as a good example. And I think you're not alone. There's many people in your situation, like young, motivated, who are looking for a job. So it's great that you decided to, or that you agreed to be on the panel to share the view of those who are an incredible resource for all the solar companies.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, next up we have Lyndsay Cotton. Some of you might know him from the WhatsApp group. I called him the SUNS guru, which he didn't like too much, but the wisdom of the day about the SUNS regulations, that comes from Lyndsay. He has been running LCP roofing for quite a while already, and recently ventured also into solar. He did our training courses, launched his own company, and now is busy installing solar projects. So tell us a bit more about your company and your hirings or hiring story, or whatever you have to tell us.
Right. I've been in the construction industry for about 30 years. I got my quantity surveying degree in 1992, and I did a diploma in project management after that. Then I was employed with some civil companies. I went into commercial construction. We built a number of hospitals, office blocks, shopping centers. And then I decided I wanted to rather build houses. It was probably not such a clever idea, but your shopping center client is not quite as fussy as the homeowner's wife. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the luxury houses. And that's when we started doing our own electrical work as well, employed some electricians, and we ended up doing probably about 150 luxury houses in total, complexes and loose standing houses. And then I decided, tired of the construction industry. It's mock-ups, the money's not that good. We're in a tight world. And I met a guy and we decided, let's start a roofing company. We've been going about 11 years now. And about 9 years ago, we decided to open a transport division as well. Started by having to transport our own timber. We've got about 13, 14 fleet of trucks on the road. So that's sort of a business on its own. I've always enjoyed electrical work. So when the old solar thing came up, and I said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to start a venture there. And with the past experience and always loving that, I had a home automation business at one stage. And we were a bit early for that. That was 15 years ago. Did a lot of automation systems in houses. Those years was 200,000-300,000 rand for a house, but there wasn't much of a market for that, and so I put that on hold a bit. But I think the world is ready. The world is ready for changes, for technology. It's just load shedding then gets us, and everything falls apart. So that's where I've been in the last few years. The roofing company's got quite a few industry awards. I like technology, I like processes, so that's what we've done. We've built a company with quite a lot of depth. We've designed a glue lamp press recently, very big in Germany, big in Europe, something that we've tried to do here. There are companies that do it in quite a high volume in South Africa, but we try to do it a little bit differently, a bit more specific and special stuff. So that's us. That's LCP Roofing. I've done a bit of solar installations over the years. The company officially started on 1 January 2021. So that's us. We've just started as an official company. Yeah. So that's where we are today. Okay. Looking forward to a new world.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's good that you have so much experience and so many companies that you already managed, so you can share a lot on how to set up a company, and you're now in the position where everyone is, that you are starting the solar company. So yeah, that will be interesting.
Yeah, I think over the years you learn what not to do and what to do, and to change it, and to every time you do something better. I think we all learn through experience, and that's the challenge with the youngsters today. I came out of university with absolutely no knowledge. I thought I knew everything. What's it now? 25, 30 years later, I know nothing. I realize I still know nothing. I'm still learning every single day. I feel sorry for the youngsters. The opportunities we had are not the same today.
True, yeah, and even more opportunities. But we'll get to that later. You already want to discuss, but we have two more guests to present. Next up is Ryan. Ryan Geel is from Life Choices Coding Academy. And Life Choices is our academy partner in Cape Town. And that's actually how we met Ryan. He was in a meeting where we discussed possibilities, because Life Choices is doing great work in with youth and education and bringing people into work. So we met and discussed a few ideas, and so Ryan, we quickly noticed that Ryan is a really good choice to be on a panel like this. He's not coming from the solar industry, but he has a lot that we can learn from him. So maybe introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing at Life Choices.
Thanks, Vivian. So thank you for the introduction. Nice to meet everybody. I think, as you've highlighted, this is not my industry of expertise in terms of solar. I'm very aware of the academy here at our facilities in Lansdowne, but I know my colleague Matt is generally working quite closely with you guys in terms of setting that up and managing the academy and so forth. So a bit about what I do here. I manage the academy program at Life Choices. I started off actually working within Life Choices from a placement partnership perspective. So what does that mean? It means that our academy is designed to find young individuals employment. And we do that by upskilling them with coding abilities. So the kids come through our program, they learn how to develop websites, build web development skills. And what we do as an organization, as a program, is that we move them from the learning journey straight into an employment environment. And that is done through an internship model that we obviously manage and implement and maintain. To date now, obviously, what we do is we do this with 120 youth or candidates a year in 2 cycles, with the ultimate outcome that each individual needs to be employed at the end of the program, which is seen as a 12-month program. And the interesting thing, and I think the value that we've seen, is that models such as this, which meaning basically employment through education in a hybrid model, if I could put it that way, we've seen a lot of traction. And we've definitely validated that models like this can work. They are currently working. As it stands at the moment, we have an employment rate of roughly about 80% of our youth are successfully employed. And what we're also noticing is that a lot of our clients are, in some cases, on round 4 with us. So every 6 months for the past 2 years, they've been coming back for more talent. And it's an indication that, the model works. And I think if I had to look at the model, and as discussed with Vivian earlier today, it's just a model. The nice thing about the model is that the model can be adapted and adopted into other industries. As long as the same sound kind of approach is taken, it's a model that could potentially plug into an industry such as yourselves with ease, I believe. Maybe a few tweaks, but in essence, the model will work across all industries. And yeah, that's pretty much the role that we fit here. There's obviously a whole lot of other things that go on behind the scenes, but in essence, that's what we do.
I think there's lots of parallels between the coding industry and the solar industry. Both are like rising. You can jump in quite quickly, but you need to have the skills in order to be employed. So I think that's a really good idea. We all should listen what you're doing there with the coding, and it seems like we must copy that. Yeah. Thank you. So cool. Yeah, thanks for joining. Last not least, we have Andreas. Andreas is our newest academy partner for the academy in Pretoria that we recently opened, or reopened, we should say, because that's actually when, back in the days with Max Solar Academy, we started in Pretoria. And thanks to Andreas, we found the first venue where we offered the very first trainings in South Africa, because he put us in touch with the German school in Pretoria, and we were able to do our trainings there. And then, yeah, I think we kind of lost contact for a while, but we are now happy that we are back to working together. And yeah, happy to have you in the panel. What is your company doing?
So ANH Technologies comes out of MC2. So maybe I'll just go right back to the beginning. My background, I'm born and bred in South Africa. I spent 6 years in Munich doing energy electronics with Siemens. I've come back and done a few ventures in South Africa since '94. And the background's actually industrial automation. So the likes of BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, which have plants here, the robotics and the and all of the automation in the factory. I'm a hardware guy, so I've never been into the PLC, the programming of these systems. And as part of the company I was working for at that point, we started installing solar back in about 2005, I think it was. And subsequent to that, I joined Bosch. I headed up built up the Bosch solar energy division. But you will appreciate that South Africa is but 3 or 4% of the global market. So Bosch sold the factories off. And then they asked me to stay and start another department, but I wanted to stay in the solar industry. I believe that 80% of Africa doesn't have power, and I see making a difference there. That to me is important. Yeah, so we started MC2 Energy, doing installations, focusing on off-grid for lodges and farmers, etc., that don't have grid connection. So that's a little bit of my my forte is especially on the SMA side. So I've got a long-standing relationship with Hoppeker, the biggest privately owned battery manufacturer in Europe, and SMA, specializing in the Sunny Island, Sunny Boy Tri-Power family. Yeah, and because the consultation and the import and distribution grew so much, we started ANH Technologies, which does the import and distribution, and we've got a whole number of product ranges that we cover in the solar industry, and then also into the larger commercial storage space and backup space. And yes, struggling with load shedding. I mean, we started the beginning of this thing of this discussion, complaining about load shedding. I believe we're a bunch of people here that can make a difference. And if they only allow us to, we can make a huge impact. It's part of the struggle that I fight. When I was back at Bosch and I earned a salary from them, I spent the largest part of my days talking to various role players and trying to get legislation in place so that we can have a feed-in tariff or different models. Yes, I mean, I heard it earlier about a home automation space being too early. I think speaking to legislators about a solar industry, when you can count on one hand the amount of solar installers out there, and at the moment it's a booming industry, and they're still trying to suppress it. I've got news for them. It's what Germany did 30 years ago. The likes of RWE, which is one of the German ESCOMs, they were fighting the solar industry, and at the end they realized that as long as the fuel's for free, which the sun is, this industry will grow from strength to strength, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Nice. Okay. So now that we know who's here, tell me, what is the situation in the South African employment market? How is it for a PV company? Is it easy finding staff? Is it difficult? What is the situation? Maybe Andreas, you have the most experience in the solar sector. How is it for you?
Well, I'm always a bit saddened by, just this morning we heard that Stats SA published some statistics yesterday, that a huge portion of our population is unemployed, and yet if I say I'm looking for people, it's difficult to get people with the right qualifications and maybe the necessary experience, and I don't think, and I mean that's just my personal view, but I don't think the current situation we have with unemployment in South Africa warrants the sort of approach that we're taking with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, etc., because it just makes it very difficult for an employer. I could give a whole bunch of young people a chance, but it's difficult if I employ them and they don't perform to expectations, or they don't really fit. It's hard for them to find something else, and it's also hard for me to open that position again for somebody else to get a chance. And I find that sad, because there's so many people out there that would deserve a chance at that. I mean, the solar industry is vast. It ranges from sales, engineering, various forms of engineering. We've got structural engineering, roof layouts. We've got electrical engineering in various levels. So if you go to a house, small little off-grid systems, right up to big commercial backup storage, that's highly technical and needs a high degree of engineering skills. So managerial project management. So the solar sector as a whole offers a wide field of skills, and one could offer opportunities in that if one had a bit more freedom in growing people into it, and without having the risk of carrying a burden that you can't afford.
I think, yeah, that is one major challenge, the legislation. And the second is, as you mentioned, there's not the job description. Solar installer doesn't really exist. It's nothing you study at university. So it's, how do you choose to be that? And yeah, maybe Amanda can relate to that. If you, I mean, you were somebody coming from the university, you studied something technical, and then how was it for you? How did you feel to make a choice where to apply, what to do?
I think when you're coming from university, like fresh from varsity, when you kind of look for whatever opportunities that could be out there, you limit yourself precisely to what you think is fit according to your qualification. So for me, that's how it started. Like I was like, okay, this is what I studied, so this is what I should be looking for, this is what I should be looking for. And then when nothing in that nature was panning out, you get to a point where you say, okay, but this is also kind of related to this, and maybe I could do this because I've studied this part and this part. And you try to make a sort of connection between what you've studied and something else that is out there. And then you just want to take a chance and see if it's something that you can actually make work and make it possible that you do that. So it's a bit tricky to be in that kind of limbo state where you're fresh out of varsity but not employed yet.
Yeah. Which channels did you use to apply, or where did you look for jobs, Amanda?
Now almost everything is technology. So I had to kind of brush up my CV and then just put it in all those platforms, Careers 24, PNet, almost everything was, I think I also put in 2 handwritten applications. Yes, it got to that point. So most of it though was technology-based, LinkedIn, all those career networks, Careers 24, PNet, and you just go there and you look for something that could be fitting, and then just fill in, and then you see what comes back.
Where do you as employers look for staff? Lyndsay, you told me before that you have around 100 people employed in the roofing company and the transport and the solar. So where did you find all these? Where are you looking?
Yeah, so the roofing company is a little bit more technical in the sense that we've probably 4 or 5 very technical people. The balance are general employees. Our carpenters are obviously skilled and they've been trained over the years, but we could get by skill and train. Transport business obviously totally different. Your drivers, your bargaining council, your legislative stuff that you need to comply with becomes a little bit more technical. But it was interesting because the solar, I think all of us think, and I think there are a lot of people out there that want to go and buy an inverter, stick it to a wall, and hopefully it works. Now, in most cases, a cheap and nasty system bought off the shelf will work. But where do we want to go? Where do we as employers want to go? And if we're going to grow people, we want to have a decent company, we're going to have to start putting the more technical systems in. And that's what Andreas said. It's not just have an installer, training someone that can just put panels up on a roof. You're starting to, it's actually quite a technical industry. You've got the installers, which are putting rails up, all the way to cabling, wiring, and even IT. I'm fortunate. Our company, I'm very systems orientated. I've always loved systems and creating that. So my company's always run with a very strong IT background. We've created apps, we've created inspection apps, and I've got some ideas for the solar industry because we've got an industry first, a roofing inspection app that we created, where the inspections get done on site and can get docu-signed and everything off-site by the relevant engineers. So because of that, I have an IT chappie, and he's actually one of my success stories because I went and bought a, how can we put this? I went and bought a gun and took it to a knife fight because I started all this IT, but I didn't know where I was going with it. So I hired a youngster, and that's probably the first thing we do is when we start a business is we've got this idea. So we hire our stepfather, our mother, our brother, our friend, and we create a business. And why do we do that? Because we really don't know where to look for someone. And then after that, what's the other reason? You can treat them badly and you can fire them and they won't take you to the CCMA or whatever. But that isn't actually the right way to go about it. And that's how I hired my first IT chappie, a friend of a friend. And I think the father was doing us a favor. Maybe we were doing the father a favor. I don't know. He's grown to be quite a successful youngster. But that's where we started. And then I was looking for an IT person. I thought, okay, we need someone. And it's quite an interesting success story in the sense that I went out exactly what Amanda said, put out on PNet, LinkedIn, all over the place. And the amount of CVs I got was scary. It's absolutely scary to see how many people actually are looking for work. And you get people with highly overqualified qualifications looking for work as a solar installer. That's scary. That means that there's so much out there. There's so much available for people. So this youngster, we agree on an interview on a Sunday. He's working somewhere else. And I said, okay, that's cool. He'll come and see at my office. I was training for an off-road race on the Saturday, and we were up in the mountains, and I had a massive crash, and I could hardly walk on the Saturday night. And Sunday morning, I was as blue as the shirt I'm wearing today. And my wife took me to the emergency room at about midday, and I could hardly walk. And I phoned the youngster, and I said to him, listen, we can't have this interview today. I'm in no state to see you. And he said, no, he's on the taxi. He's in the taxi. He's coming to the interview. So I said to him, all right, then you're going to have to come to the hospital. No problem, he says. He'll come to the hospital. So he's round one of the interview was actually my wife, and she interviewed him in a waiting room. And then she got permission from the nursing staff to bring him to the emergency ward. I think that's pre-COVID though, because that wouldn't happen today. And I said, okay, let's interview this youngster. He's obviously very determined. And in walks this short guy with dreadlocks. And I thought, oh no, what the heck have I got myself into now? And well, we're 3 years down the line, a highly motivated young IT chappie. He's got married since, he's bought a car, he doesn't use a taxi anymore. And he took a chance on us, and we took a chance on him. And that brings me to like the solar. Here's a company like myself, we've started with solar, and we're now going to stick an inverter against the wall. And suddenly you realize that it's not quite that simple. You actually need someone. I like using Victron products as well. If you're going to do a proper Victron installation, you better know the IT side of things as well. And that's what Andreas said. The industry is so wide. It's so wide as to who you can employ. And well, without the IT background, where we want to go as a company, it wouldn't work. So it's more than just a salesperson. It's more than just the install on the roof. It's a lovely industry to be in. I'm so excited about it. We can create value right through the chain, in the whole employment chain. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, Brian, for you, looking as an outsider on this industry, you heard what we're struggling with. Complicated tasks, we need a wide set of skills. We need like the simple installers who carry modules, but then those who actually do the wiring, do the planning. So it's quite a level of skills required. What do you see? How can we optimize hiring processes? Do you see any opportunities?
Well, yeah, thanks, Vivian. Yeah, listen, I think what I'm hearing is similarities across all industries, especially those in major growth sectors. I see solar definitely as one of those industries that are growing. There's obviously future demand is on the horizon. And with that, I think you're going to start experiencing exactly what the tech industry is experiencing in South Africa. I think the only problem that you have, which is a major barrier to entry, is that you can't export installation. South Africa at the moment, in terms of the digital kind of skills gap that it's experiencing, is vast. I mean, there's an estimated shortage of roughly about 200 to 250,000 vacancies in the marketplace. The problem with those vacancies is that they're all sitting in what's classified as the mid to specialist sector of the market. Mid sector being anybody with 5 years experience and up, and then specialist being somebody that specializes in a very specific skill set in the tech space. That is something that, for instance, cannot get plugged into from a youth perspective. We can't cater for that type of market. However, what we do kind of provisionally foresee is that, if we had to work on a solution that allows markets to obtain young talent and to give the guys that are currently in the mid sector the opportunity to upskill themselves to those roles, we could potentially find a solution, but that solution is long term. I mean, we're talking a 10-year plan, nothing that's going to be fixed overnight. I think where you guys as an industry are, and I might be mistaken here, but you're pretty much on the cusp of market really kind of growing. From what I could hear, there were some legislative issues, but I completely agree that legislation will be forced to change when the market demands it. What should be obviously a priority right now is understanding how one could look at educational programs that are a little bit more modernized. And the way I'll say that is, our program was designed to challenge the status quo of education. We don't believe in the 3 to 4 year university journey. We believe in theory that that's a broken model. What really should be focused on is one should be focusing on upskilling an individual rapidly within either a 6 to 12 month window, and then moving straight into an apprentice model, where the individual is hired as an intern and then is literally learning on the job. So in theory, earning to learn, if I could put it that way. Yes, I can also understand that your sector does require certain skill sets that are possibly requiring degrees and certain accreditations. And, that is a completely different conversation. But if one is looking at your entry-level roles within your sector, there's no doubt that there's hybridized kind of educational programs out there that could be adapted into a solar academy model, that in theory could upskill youth to take care of, I don't want to call it mundane roles, but it's generally the entry-level roles that give you more time as a company to kind of work on the business and not necessarily in the business. Now, I'm not a fan with all the various skills required for your industry, but I can tell you based on examples that I have from my side is the companies and work on a number of roles. And a lot of the time, what you tend to find is that when you have 60 or 100 youngsters coming through a program,
and we lost Ryan. Oh,
there you I lost you. I don't know where I lost you there. I kind of dropped off the call, I think. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. It was just...
sorry, I just kind of dropped off there by mistake. Okay. No worries. So what I was saying is, when we have a pool of talent coming in, what we can identify during the learning journey is that each individual has an ability to kind of branch off into a speciality environment or to be a generalist. And by managing that process, what we then tend to do is influence the individual into certain streams of thought and learning. But at the same time, us working with our partner network, we place these individuals in very specific roles that down the line, they become specialists in their field. Now, I can understand that, obviously skill sets is key, and that in the solar space, you're obviously requiring some specialist stuff, but I just don't know how big the problem is in terms of employment and whether or not there are any youth programs out there that are currently plugging in. I did kind of hear, however, that, part of the problem is nurturing youth and managing youth. So that's one of the issues that obviously we've developed our program around. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've realized and based on industry feedback is that it's not necessarily a technical problem. Technical upskilling is something that obviously in the tech space is continuous. You never stop learning in the tech industry. However, one of the biggest obstacles that they face from a recruitment perspective is the soft skills, professional skills, life skills, things that people unfortunately have just not managed to obtain through general schooling, as well as obviously within their communities. And unfortunately, due to many dynamics and socioeconomic issues at home, they're not getting those skills. So part of our program is dual. One, we upskill youth, and on the other side, we nurture them as well. So we look at an individual from a very holistic perspective. And a lot of the time, what you find is when you start working on the one side, being the personal professional development side, and getting that side working right, and the person aligned with what he should be aligned with, all of a sudden everything else falls into place, and they become ambitious enough to actually really progress in their lives. Now, we have definitely, had many successes in our program. Don't get me wrong, we also have some kids. We are working with human beings. It is a challenge, and unfortunately, I think due to history, due to socioeconomic environments, due to a number of things, unfortunately, some of our youth don't make it through our program and are eventually not employed. But, sitting with a 75% to 80% placement rate, it's a very, very high success rate. What we've realized, the key to that is that we've got to find partners that are willing to work with youth and understand the dynamic. And you've got to have an appetite for it. It's not easy. But also at the same time, what we've found over the last 4 years is that when we started our program and what it looked like to what our program looks like now is like a complete 360-degree turnaround. And a lot of the reasoning for that is that we engage with industry and we've built our program based on industry feedback. There needs to be engagement. If you don't have engagement, you're never going to build a solution that's catering to the needs of the market. And I think what is a recommendation, and if I had to look at the way to do things like this in an industry like yourselves, is to first establish the demand for a specific skill set, decide whether or not that skill set is transferable to a young person without needing a degree or any specialized qualification. And if you identify that skill set and see that there is a large demand for it, then you build an academy solution around that skill set. But what you've got to guarantee is you've got to work on ensuring that there is a demand for these individuals, and that demand has to, in theory, build the academy demand from a recruitment perspective. It's pointless me developing 1,000 solar, installers, and then there's only a need for 100 or a demand for 100, because then what we're doing is we're doing exactly what South Africa is currently facing, the issues that they're facing. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going through entrepreneurship programs, or they're going through retail programs, or they're going through just generalized programs that last 3 months but don't have any direct impact on whether or not they get employed. So finding partnerships is crucial. Working on understanding where youth can plug into the industry is also a key aspect. And once one understands that opportunity, building models around that would really, really help with sorting those issues out. I don't know if that kind of brings in an answer to your question, but yeah, it's a broad problem, big problem, if I can be honest with you.
Definitely a good feedback to us as a training academy. Of course, we are also training to place people into jobs. What are challenges for solar companies? Andreas, maybe when you hire young people from universities and not from universities, but like the unexperienced, as Lyndsay said at the beginning, coming from university, having studied for a few years, but knowing nothing at all, really. So what are the challenges you are facing?
I've got a lot of experience with bringing in young people from, I made extensive use of TUT and other facilities where young people can get basic skills, and then saying, I'm going to bring 6 people in and I'm going to take the best 2, and I'll leave it up to them to prove themselves. And it's not me that makes the decision, but the whole team together, from the cleaner to the receptionist, the MD, whoever, we all sit together and we make it a call on somebody. And that's a model that over the years, for me, has worked very well. Growing people inside your company to acquire the skills that you require as a company. The challenge always is to get somebody in that's got sort of the basics. If you need an installer, he must have basic, skills to be able to do the installation on the roof. There's certain skills that are inherently required, and the question always is whether one can teach those skills, or is there certain inbred or with birth given skills that they bring along. Somebody understands electrics and can grow into the electrical field. The challenge is to you want to employ somebody to do electrical design for solar systems, but you need to find somebody that's got the basics, or you have to bring somebody in and upskill them from scratch. But there's obviously then once again legislative requirements as to you need to have a qualified electrician to do certain things. I think my advice, and I think it's maybe, and Lyndsay said it earlier, or maybe in the conversation yesterday already, what I find is that a lot of young people come on board and they want to start on top. And that never works. You can't build a house from the roof down. You start with a foundation and you work hard at laying a good foundation. And people come in and they want to start in your company and be there for a week, and then they want to earn a big salary. Everybody needs obviously basics, and we've got basic requirements, etc. We all understand that, but people come into an industry that are willing to first put their shoulder to the wheel and first move the little wagon that we all part of, whether it's me as the business owner or the managing director or CEO, whatever the title may be, and the rest of the team, whatever, each person in that team has a function, and we must all move our little wagon across the little river. And if somebody comes in and just makes their contribution, and allows for time to grow inside the company, there'll always be a spot. Any company will make use and have value in somebody that adds value. And I think that today, to me, is a big challenge. You bring people into a company, you have an interview. What can you learn about a person in an interview? I mean, it's all these things. I mean, Ryan said it earlier as well. Universities, I think it's outdated. I think our technology and our lives are evolving at such a pace that whatever they have learned at university, by the time they finished, yes, you need certain fundamentals. I'm looking urgently for somebody 70% sales capability. Can you learn about sales? Yes, you can learn, and I can teach you certain things about sales, but it's in the blood. It's in the genes of somebody if they're a good salesperson. And then they need 30% skills. They must be able to talk to a client. There's certain personality traits. So a person like it would have the personality trait of saying, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, and follow through. So one can do. In working for many years, and also in big corporates, you've done all these personality tests, and you've done all these things, and you learn a lot about yourself. But yes, the challenge always, and I think that's the most fundamental thing. If somebody comes into a company, my advice is always,
Oh no,
just get involved.
Didn't get the advice.
Secret advice.
No. The secret is not being revealed.
It's critical advice. Is get involved in the company, add value, because by adding value in a company, you become valuable for the company. And if you become valuable for the company will automatically, you inside the company will find gaps where you can grow yourself. And I think that to young people starting off somewhere in a company, that to me is start, don't look what everybody else owes you. Start at what you can contribute, because thereby you make yourself invaluable to a company, and then a company wants to retain you, and the company will look after you because you're becoming valuable to the company.
Yeah, I think you can see it like an ecosystem, no? We as companies, we as employers need people working for us, doing good work, and then on the other hand, people also want to find a job. So the system must be balanced somehow. Yeah, but let's talk facts. What are you looking for when you get an application for young?
I see there was a question.
Wait, we lost you.
Sorry, Vivian. I see there was a question to me in the chat. I'd like to answer.
The question is, people you're looking for. That's an interesting one for us.
Yes, I believe, and I said to it just now. I think that you have to bring a certain basic knowledge along. So when you join a company and you bring certain basics along, you make yourself make yourself more employable. And therefore, I do think that if I had to say, we've got an electrician, and I've got two people in the interview, an electrician and an electrician that's done a solar course, and I'm a solar company looking for somebody that's done the solar course, automatically adds more value straight away. Okay, I think we've lost our
host.
Our host.
Okay, so we lost our host. So should I take over?
Well, actually, yeah.
Carry on, Lyndsay.
I actually want to. I'm not sure if you actually read my notes, but you've touched on a very valuable point, because I've employed people over the years, and I've always had the opinion that they're going to move on. They're not going to be with me forever. And I need to add as much value to their life while they're with me. I'm here to make money and to create a life myself, but those people are also got a home and family and aspirations and things they want to do. And that's what Vivian said. What do I look for in an employee? So all the normal things if he has to come to an interview, like confidence, but not arrogance. I've employed people or interviewed people that lie back in a chair and they're actually probably a little bit arrogant. So I wouldn't look for that. I need confidence in my decision. So it's exactly what Andreas said. I need to be confident that the person I'm employing will actually fit in the role that I've employed him for, like a salesman. It's either inbred or it's not inbred. Okay, presentability, preparation, work ethic, all those are the standard run-of-the-mill things. But I want to touch on exactly what you said, is growth potential. It is my aim to grow an employee. I want to grow you. But I'm not going to take you down to the water. I will take you there, but I'm not going to force you to carry on any further. It's up to you to grow yourself. And in my business, even if it's 50% industry related, and you come to me and say to me, I would like to do a course. I would like to do a course to grow myself. I will welcome it with open arms. And that's exactly what Andreas said, is I'm not going to force you to learn. I'm not going to send you on all sorts of training courses. You must come to me, request the help, and I will do my best. I know you're not going to be with me forever, but we're going to have a successful relationship, for sure.
How much would you say is, when you're hiring a person, how much is the impression in the interview, the personal thing, and how much do you look at the CV, the grades, the qualifications?
Okay, CVs I do look at to choose maybe the interviewees, but the technical stuff, if he's lied on his CV, we'll figure that out soon enough. But the technical stuff is something I'll work on later. I need to see who that person is, and is he in a sales role? If he's an introvert and I'm employing a programmer, I don't need him to be an extrovert and be able to be a salesman. So you need to see the fit for purpose when I'm looking for someone. I generally, if we're employing sort of more senior staff in our business, I actually don't lead the interview. And I've actually made a note here. I just want to see what I wrote there. I actually don't lead the interview. I sit in the corner I've got a sort of a pre-worked out interview form. And I let the rest of the team, the people that are involved, interview the person. And I just make my notes. I keep my notes. I've got a template. And every now and again, I would sort of fire up a question asking actually the questions I want answered. And at the end of the interview, I've got a pretty good feeling of that person and what I want out of them. and the rest will come then. When I issue that appointment letter, I've written stuff down and appointed him and given my aspirations for him and his for me in that appointment letter. And I often have a paragraph that says that I want you to learn. I want you, but I'm not going to take you. You must come and ask, but I will grow you. I'll make sure you grow. So yeah, that's what I look for in someone.
Okay. For someone who has grown a lot, Amanda, what would you say, what makes it easy, or what do you need as a basis to grow in a company? What is it what you are demanding from the company? Or maybe, I think it is, we all think, okay, no, you must get there, you must knock the door, you must do this, do that. But maybe there's something we are missing from the employer perspective.
Okay, firstly, I think I'm going to agree with Lyndsay on that confidence arrogance thing. That when you, even after the interview process is over and you're just getting into the company, you have to have that confidence, but also be careful that it's not arrogance, because then if it comes across as arrogance, then it seems that there's no room for you to grow, that you've done all the growing that needs to be done and you're just done. So if you're confident and also understand that there's always room for improvement and always room for learning. And if the environment, I think also the work environment is an important factor, because if you are in an environment where you feel that okay, I just have to go in and do what I'm supposed to do and go home, go in, go home, then I don't think there's much learning and that much growing that can happen. And if it's a conducive environment, I think I've been told many times that there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you don't know, you ask, and then you learn. And if you feel that, okay, this is something that I can do, if you want to shadow someone, if you want, there's a course that you want to suggest that maybe I feel this course can help me improve in my day-to-day duties, then you can bring that forward, and then it's a way of opening discussion. I don't think it's going to be exactly a no, and that's it. So the environment, I think, is also important, that we feel it's a safe space to bring such things, and also know that even if you're confident in yourself, you must understand that you can still learn and you can still grow. Every day you can still learn and you can still grow.
I think that's definitely true, but I've seen it, or we've seen it, and I'm sure you also experienced that it takes a bit of time. You need to invest into that, and you need to take the minute to answer the question and then to answer the second question, but then you can be sure that the person will know it for the next time. Ryan, how did you convince the companies to make time to take the interns and to do that extra work and be convinced that it's value?
Yeah, Vivian, I was actually going to just try and find a way to put my hand up. I was putting my hand up. Yeah, I was just like, hang on. So what we've realized is, yes, the first cycle of convincing is always the challenging one. It's do people see value in this? So how we do it on the first hand is that all of our students that come through a program such as ourselves have to develop a proof or evidence of work in the form of a digital portfolio. Now, I don't know how that would work in the solar space, but I mean, in theory, they need to be able to prove what they've learned and what they've grasped and what they could deliver on. Whether that is through some technical assessments that one could vet and actually qualify through, that then obviously employers have access to, that will then validate their technical experience. Then, based on some of the conversations that I've heard here from the gents on the line, is that the other question is cultural. Is there a cultural fit? That's probably one of the biggest kind of asks in any industry, including the one that I work in. it's 1 year. So, okay, we've had a look at their portfolio. We can see that they can build websites, but will they fit in my team? Will they be able to work in a remote environment? Now, I know that's not applicable for you guys, but in my industry right now, remote work is a big topic. It's pretty much, I would have to say it's more than 50% of my market and my customers have moved completely remote, which impacts how we run internships. But one of the thinking and one of the trends that I've seen in the marketplace is that at first it's challenging because there's a need to nurture. But what happens is that there's a point, and that's generally on about round 2 when they come back. There's a point somewhere along the line that things kind of just click. And what actually happens is that new interns coming into the internship program with the company are then mentored by alumni from previous internships. And you'll end up creating this cycle that, it manages itself. So the customers that I'm currently working with now that I'll say on round 3 and round 4 of employment with us, the mentors of those new interns are actually our alumni. So there becomes like this hierarchy of management within the workplace. And the alumni are mentoring the youngsters because the best person to mentor them is the alumni. They're the ones that kind of had to pioneer the space. They know all the shortcuts in terms of how to get the person from ground or roots level all the way up to where they need to be within a very short space of time. And a lot of the time, what I've realized is that they mentor better because they're from the same background and they're from the same communities. And they generally, obviously, the only time they're ever reaching out for assistance is when they're at a point where they really aren't in a position to solve a problem or get past the challenge that they're facing as a team. So I would say that, the thinking should be, yes, there's always going to be this kind of barrier to entry in the beginning stages of any program such as this. But long term, as an organization grows or as a company grows and there's a need for demand, what should be happening is that the alumni that were pioneering those first internships should become the mentors for the next interns or for the next batch of youth. And if you can get that cyclical model working, then you won't have any problems going forward. It'll manage itself in essence.
I think you perfectly described what is going on our alumni WhatsApp group. It is people posting. No, it's great. People posting pictures of how they made the wiring, and then everyone responds and gives tips on how to change it, how to improve it. So that part definitely works, and I think our WhatsApp group is still like a small part of it. It could be even more, but it's a good starting point. Yeah, that definitely works. But I think more for the solar industry, especially, there's lots of potential in the young people, but we said it before that it takes a while until they grow into the position. So a solar company should already think about the future, hire young people, but many companies at the moment struggle with finding mid-level or even high-skilled staff members who can be sent out to the client and who can get the job done. How do you solve that problem? Or have you solved the problem, Andreas or Lyndsay?
I haven't solved it yet. I think I started a few weeks ago and said, right, I need a salesperson. I have salespeople that work for me, but they don't want to sell the solar because it's exactly what one of the other questions were answered or asked is, if the customer goes up, says to them, I want this or that, or how would I do this? And the salesman says, I don't know. We've lost his attention. And that's where, sales in the solar industry, sales in any technical industry needs a special type of person. And where do you find those people? Where do you find those people that are, one of the well-known contributors on that group is quite a big company in Pretoria, I see, and they're hiring at the moment, and they're looking for a person that I think is pretty much close to top class. Now that's difficult. That's difficult because that person has to handle sales. He has to be technically proficient. He must be able to do drawings. And that is not run-of-the-mill people, not in the solar, not in any technical industry. And how will you find people like that? I don't know. This is where this whole journey and discussions with yourself started happening. And my interest in the group was really, okay, I had how can we call it, for my own reasons, my own purposes, selfish purposes, why I wanted to hire someone is for my company. And now I've suddenly discovered that this is a much bigger issue than I even would have thought. How do we skill people in this industry? And I'm not talking about installer training or the 5-day course. It's much deeper than that. Yeah, it's I haven't maybe someone, Andreas, can answer, but I know I don't have the answer on that one.
I think we're definitely the right people together here to talk about that. A training provider, a company, somebody who does internships. So yeah, what is it? And Andreas?
I think, I mean, I've trained in the industrial automation. It's a consistent demand. It's very specialized, and it's a narrow skill set, because it's electrical or it's mechanical. And yes, you've got electricians and you've got engineers and so on, software, hardware, robotics, but it's a running machine. So I can bring young people in, and I mean, I firmly believe that if the person's got the motivation, let's call it the zip to do something, then I'll have a spot for them in the company, always. And you find out, yeah, this guy likes software, and then you can develop him in the software field. Or this guy, yes, he's got 3-dimensional thinking capability. You can go into robotics. You know, I've literally hundreds of people that I've given jobs to, and a lot of them have left and over the years, and it's great to see them grow somewhere else. But the solar industry is the level of entry, perhaps. I mean, the technology is complex, but it's on the other side, it's also very simple. It sounds conflicting, but it's a solar inverter. You can connect plus and minus. You plug the panels together and you switch it on. With a little bit of luck, you'll get some juice out of it, and it won't blow up in the first time round, and all's good. The complexity, if you go into it, the complexity actually increases, and I think that's where the solar industry is difficult. Everybody knows everything about solar. If you go to the clients, they Google. I mean, that's maybe not solar industry specific, but they Google something. And when I drive past, I see in South Africa a house with an installation on a roof that's facing south. So obviously you read Google, but you didn't understand what you were doing. But I guarantee you, an installer comes to that chap and he'll tell that installer what needs to be done. So what Lyndsay said is absolutely right. I mean, I'm urgent. I said it just now. I'm urgently looking for a salesperson. 70% sales, but 30% must be technical knowledge, because he comes to that client and tells the client, that roof of yours, we're going to have to take it down and put it on the other side. That's why it's not working. The client doesn't want to hear something like that, you know. And I think that's where the specifics and the challenge lies in the solar industry, is that it's very simple to get involved in, but if you start doing the projects, you realize, there is complexity to it. And I think that's where the challenge, coming back to a green solar academy, that's where the beauty is. If you have the alumni, and I like that idea of Ryan as well, that somebody that's more advanced takes a younger person, younger as not in years, but as in the industry, by their hand and guides them. And it's like a pay it forward type of scenario, in reinvesting your experience in the young guy. I was in a meeting in Joburg just after lunch, and the guy said, yeah, but you know, this and that, and people always they come and they learn, and then they go somewhere else. Hey, the solar industry's got one advantage there. It is so massive. The cake is big enough for all of us. If you do a good job and you make sure, then if you're training somebody else up and he joins up and he opens his own company, so be it. It's good. There's enough work for all of us. I think there's much more to be gained by working together, and they're also with young people, and making sure that the quality that's delivered to the client is good, because that's good for the solar industry, and then benefits all of us again. So I think that person was saying it's a South African mentality. I want to keep everything to myself, and I'm fighting for my little piece of the world, and it's not necessary. I mean, and I think that's where this kind of alumni event or working on an installation, join up, even if you've got ambitions to start your own company, join an existing company and be honest about it and say, I want to work for you, and then maybe if I learn enough and I find a way, then I'd like to start my own company, and let's see where the journey goes together. I think traveling together is always much more fun than traveling alone.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think listening to that, I realized, I mean, where should the high-skilled salespeople and installer people come from if the industry is so young, like the solar industry?
Exactly.
You made it to be experts now after how many years in the industry? So where should somebody come from? If they have that level of experience, they probably have their own company and are looking for the same stuff as you are.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe if you can wait a bit, how long does it take to grow a youngster into the position where you need them, that they are actually really useful on site? I mean, if you can wait for that period, we can just start now using the resources we have, sending them to courses, and to grow our own mid and high skilled workers. How long would it take? And is it realistic for a company that now has the demand to just hire a youngster who can't perform 100% now, but on a lower level, and then after a while they are able to fulfill the complete job?
I want to jump in there. You have to start somewhere. It takes a year at a minimum. Okay, if somebody's really bright, 6 months, they start getting some traction. But I'd say a year until somebody in the company is really at such a point where you can let them loose on your clients. Okay, where that's an inherent skill, communication skills, etc. But you got to start somewhere. So I can't. I mean, we hear that a lot in industry. We companies, and it's a lot of complaint of people looking for work. They say, they always want a young person, but he must have 20 years, a young graduate, but he must have 20 years of experience. Yeah, nonsense. You just got to start. Just do it. Go in there with the right attitude, and listen. This guy fits. I mean, and I've always said it. I can get a professor for a certain development task, or I can get a guy that fits into the team. So the professor, he's got a lot of knowledge, but he can't work in the team. The team is not going to pull him along. He won't know everything that I require. So I'd rather take the guy that's got less experience, but he fits into the team and he picks up the knowledge quickly, and there we go. And he's a good team member, and he's got a bright future in my company. Much more important.
If I could just
Brian wants to jump in. Can you please keep it short, because I want to also take some questions from the audience, but then that
100%.
Yeah.
I think just talking to that, and the question that you're asking is, where do we find the talent? It's exactly the same problem that the industry is facing on my end. Where do we find the talent? They aren't here, so we've got to create them. I think what's interesting is that, for instance, at the moment I've got two electrical background individuals that are currently in my current cohort. They've got their NQF, whatever level it is. They've done through TVET colleges, and then they are in theory qualified electricians, but they can't find work. Now I know that doesn't talk straight to the solar industry. However, I know that there is a requirement for electrical background in some of the installations and at some points. So, programs can also be very targeted. You could develop a solar academy program that is looking for individuals that come from an electrical background that are currently unemployed, and I'm pretty sure you'll find a number of them. And you build a program that taps directly into that market to upskill them within the solar space and plug into that area. How do you get people to a certain level of qualified skills? The only model that's coming out of all of the discussions that we're seeing right now is you upskill your current workforce. So what you do is you find talent that's going to take over from your current talent while your current talent is upskilling to get to the next level. And that's what we are seeing come out of our research in this industry specifically. Not too sure if it will relate and transfer onto your industry either. But that's where I come from with that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something we're going to look at, because I think we can use that learning curve that you already built and then transfer it to the solar industry. But what did our audience say? Antje, did you get any questions from the audience? I can't hear you.
No, I did not say something so far. I got a few questions which I could answer directly. We have one question from Cornelius, and this is if one of you knows a labor broker which exists in our field of business, a specialized one in solar, and if you ever used a company like that.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I don't know. I've used labor brokers, recruiting companies. It's difficult. I think they've got their bottom line as their reason for existence, not necessarily placing the correct person in the right place. And that's why it's my opinion, but I don't use recruiting companies anymore. I don't use labor brokers. I would like to go and find that person myself. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know where, like I said earlier.
I could answer as well if I'm allowed to.
Yes, please.
So I'm 100% with Lyndsay. We did that for Max Solar. So when we looked for, especially the guys, when we still were in that wholesale business, and it's very costly. So, and you do not get the right persons. And then, it costs more. You have to pay the broker, you have to pay the person, and then the person is not a fit. So it's, I would not suggest to go for it.
Yesterday, when you said, Lyndsay and Andreas, you both have around 100 employees, and you said you're still kind of doing the hiring yourself. And I think it's just that personal factor that you need.
I call it the 100-day window. I say that until 100 days are over, I don't know you. Andreas said a year, but the first 100 days, my employment contracts actually say 100 days. They don't say 3 months.
No. The year is not until I know you. The year is until you make a contribution. But I would go away with your 100 days. I think you start in a company and then you've got to find your feet and get comfortable. But labor brokers, no, don't use labor brokers anymore.
Do we have more questions, Antje?
Actually not. We just got one. Okay. From Prince, for a person who is qualified electrician and has wirements attached super solar school and looking to join a solar industry, still new in the solar industry, there's an entry-level salary estimation can be approximated to. That's a very straightforward question.
Yes.
Do we have an answer?
It depends on the role. It depends on who you're looking for and in what. That's what I said when I started hiring a salesperson. I had people that were, I suppose, in a better world, were earning 100,000 Rand a month, looking for a sales position. So that's a very difficult question to answer. It all depends on the bottom line for the company as well, obviously. I don't know if that's answered it.
Prince was looking for numbers.
Numbers.
That's the challenge, no? So what are your salary expectations? Do you put it to higher?
You know what I always do? I always say to the person, so, what would you like to earn? And then they, of course, they sort of say, well, okay, this and that. And I'm saying to myself already, that's not going to work for me. And then I'd say, well, what did you do in your previous company? Then they say, well, X, Y, Z. And I say, well, can you show me a payslip? And then suddenly that's not the figure they earned. I've got a ballpark figure, but I will look at you and say, you've got potential. I'm going to take a chance on you for a few months. You're going to cost me money, but you've got potential. That's what I would look at. I can't give you a figure, sorry.
You know, the salary split in South Africa is ginormous. It's really sometimes really frightening to see the variances in salary for the same sort of person, qualifications and position. Really, the expectations and what people earn and what people earn at other companies and what they're coming to work for, or willing to come and work for. Sometimes I'm like, geez, it's actually much less than what I had in mind, you know. So it's the salary split in South Africa is huge. You know?
Yeah. What I mean, if I were in the position, I would Google it. I would ask other people what they earn and then propose something, but be like flexible in the answer. When the employer says no, you must also understand that it's maybe not in the range, and then suggest something else. I think it's if it fits on a personal level, the money level should align somehow.
Well,
and
I agree.
everyone knows that you can't live from air and happiness. We have time for one more question. Do we have another one?
We have two more questions. One is a bit complicated from Carlo da Silva. So it's like in the old days, so once joined the company and then he got the mentor, and the mentor like worked with him for about 1 year and taught him everything. And now, so we're expecting the guys to come and to start to work, and we do not even have the time to train them. So is this like the mentor thing? So should this not be the way to go? I rephrased it a little bit.
You're investing, each person, employer and employee, are investing in each other's time. And I could be throwing money away every month and then we both lose. So no, you don't just employ the guy and give him a shovel and say, go and dig the hole. You must now teach him how to dig that hole. Otherwise, the relationship's not going to work.
But I think that's a fundamental problem we have in South Africa. We get somebody into the company, and then we expect them to do a good job. And if they don't, we jump all over them. But we've never showed them what we expect of them, even, you know. So I think that is in South Africa as a whole, I think that's something that we could really work hard at, you know, is take somebody by the hand and show them what you want. And if then they don't perform, show them again. And if the third time they don't, then it's a different story. But don't bring somebody in and then you know, throw them in the pool and then expect them to swim, but you've never found out can they swim or taught them how to swim, you know. Yeah.
I think for an employee, if I have to give him a little bit of advice, potential employees, he's created his brand before he's come for the interview. I've already selected him based on his interview and who he is and what he can do and what he's able to do. That brand could be his LinkedIn profile. That brand could be his Facebook profile. And when you've got a brand and when you've promoted yourself, that's already a starting point. You haven't even met your future employee yet, but you've already created an expectation in his mind, who you are in that. And it comes to a very interesting thing, is that with the social media today, we very easily use our private life and our professional life, and we almost separate them. And we can't do that anymore. If you're an employee looking for work and you've got a Facebook profile where you're sticking your tongue out, it's probably all very cool when you're at school. But this brand that you've created is now not the brand that you need to go to a future employer with. And a lot of recruiters use that. I think it was a guy by the name of Gordon Livingston. He used his saying was, he says, past behavior is the most reliable predictor of future behavior. So an employer, if he sees what you've got up to in your past, and we all sometimes make mistakes, but if you create a brand that you live, and every day that you've lived that brand, you've grown your past. You become an employable person, and you're willing to learn, and you're willing to. That employer will look for you because he wants that brand. He wants that person he can trust.
I have one more question from the audience, if I'm allowed to add, Vivian, and I think we're approaching the end.
Yes, I think if it's one, we can answer it, and then we will be 3 minutes late.
Yeah, the thing is that the question fits very good to our last poll. one of the guys, Kulekani, so he said that how can we get help as small companies in renewable energy? Because we do the course, but some of us had not found lucky to be employed or to get companies that can assist small companies to grow. And so I think that's maybe a question to all of us and also to our alumni, how we can help here. And then I will start a poll in parallel, because so remembering that we have 60% of the audience who are employers, and the last poll is, are you looking for employees, and would you even hire an intern trained in solar following the process Ryan explained us? So the question was, how can we help, or you, the young installers, installation companies?
Sorry, if I could just, I want to just make sure I understood the question properly. If the individual saying, how does he find a job after going through the Solar Academy? Is that the question in a nutshell? Yeah. Yes. So I think one of the things that we have as a part of our program, and I think it'll be sound for any industry, is that finding strategies on finding work have changed. You know, we have a platform within our own academy, which is seen as a self-promotional platform, where we actually train our individuals, our youth, on branding, self-branding, that is. So it's how to build a structured LinkedIn profile, and literally based on that, how to build credibility in terms of how do you package yourself and your skill set. This is going beyond talking now traditional CV that you then apply for a job online. To find work nowadays, one has to hunt for work. You know, my approach with our interns is that they are required, while they are after the actual learning journey looking for employment, they are required to reach out to one company every day while they're here at the academy, and they do that through LinkedIn. And they don't reach out to the company. What they actually track down is they track down the founder, they track down the CEO, they track down the CTO, and they literally send meeting requests or message requests to link up, and then engage with them, asking them if they would ever be open to looking at an internship. The success that we've seen through programs such as that is vast. It varies, but there's no doubt that it gains traction for an individual to find employment. And it's all about being proactive outside of the general job environment or workplace environments or recruiting environments, because unfortunately with that approach, you're just a statistic. If you had to target your approach, then you become obviously somebody that it's one-on-one. And the only thing that's really stopping you there is you know, your interview in essence. So I would really look at an approach where it's more about targeting opportunity instead of actually just looking at some recruitment portal where you're applying for jobs, because you know, in that space there's so many people not looking for jobs. You know, you're just a number, unfortunately. But if you're more targeted, you've got a lot more opportunity, and I've seen that be successful. So yeah, I'll just add that to the thoughts.
Yeah, no, definitely. We are big fans of LinkedIn. So a nice LinkedIn profile gets you half of the job. That's what we think. But maybe Andreas has something, sorry, we're over time already. Maybe Andreas has a very short answer to that. In the position as a wholesaler and distributor, how to assist smaller solar companies to get the foot in the door.
Well, we've developed quite a few. At the end of the day, find a if you're a smaller company, find a contract, find a job, find somebody that wants you to install a solar system, and that's how we operate as well. We take their hand, and we make sure that we do the design with them, and we make sure that they use the right equipment. And yes, sometimes after 1 or 2 installations, they're good to go. We help them with the commissioning. Obviously, time is limited, and we're limited to the Gauteng area. But we've got guys in the Eastern Cape which have developed fantastically, and we've flown down and helped them commission off-grid systems. some guys, unfortunately, after 10 rounds of intensive taking their hands, they will never fly because they don't listen. They still run the PV cable down the gutter with cable ties, and I'm sorry, I don't sign that off. And you can try it again next time and hope I don't see it. Yeah, at some point I'm going to pull the plug because my time's also valuable. But I think the big thing is finding the job, finding the contract, making sure that the client's happy, getting the next one. Word of mouth in South Africa is still the best advertising that you can have. But yes, as a wholesaler, we have a slightly different approach. We're not a box mover, but obviously then we also not the cheapest guy on the block. So once again, it's a choice. Do you want to buy the Sunny Boy somewhere else for $100 cheaper? Go for it, but don't call on me to help you get the thing started. One hand washes the other, and if you're willing to be part of a bigger team, then you must make your contribution, and then you can also expect a contribution from others. So I think that, in a nutshell, is what it boils down to. You know, don't go out and try and screw somebody over, for the lack of better words, and then expect them to still support you and help you. It doesn't work. You don't want to be treated like that. Then don't treat others like that.
Thank you. I think that's a good sentence to end with, and kind of summarizes the spirit of this discussion. What I take from it is responsibility is definitely on us. We have to grow our industry ourselves. It is on us how we develop it and the decisions we make. And there is definitely resources which we can use. There's the green trainings, there's other training providers, there's wholesalers, there's the alumni, the mentors. And I think all of us in the panel are definitely engaging in making those options accessible. And also everyone who showed up today shows that they are interested in contributing to growing the industry. And I think we have a very powerful tool here with the alumni platform. And we as Green see ourselves right in between, serving all the different parties, connecting all the different parties. So please, whenever you have anything that you need from us, something you want topics to be discussed, things where you need assistance, let us know. And then we will get in touch with people like Ryan, people like Andreas, to make a plan and to change the situation and to change the industry for the better. Yeah, it was such a valuable exchange. Antje has the last word.
Yes, I wanted to, I shared the results of the poll, and it's quite interesting. So that we have 11 companies looking for staff, and we have 12 companies who would be ready to take interns. So I think there's some homework for Green Solar Academy to do. We still have some questions from the audience, so we will answer them later. And so the audience is also asking if we could share the contact data from the panelists.
I think we can do that. And whoever answered that poll now and is looking for staff and looking for employment, drop us an email on info@solar-training.org with the reference alumni meeting. And then we can, if you're fine with sharing the contact details, we would then share the contact details among everyone so that you can see if this can be not only a discussion, but also a matchmaking event. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. It was really a pleasure to have you. The next alumni meeting I can already announce will be in August, and since it is Women's Month and our company consists mainly of women, this topic is very important for us. So we are going to launch a special for Women's Month, of course, and we are going to have the next alumni meeting on that topic. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll send you an email, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheerio.